Did you guys see anything weird on the way here? By the way, hi, I'm Dina. I was driving back home and I think I just witnessed a murder. No, don't go!
In the evening of 30th June 2003, Malaysians were about to discover that not all monsters are make-believe. No one could have known that he was the perpetrator. In a typical Saturday evening, planned by Canny alongside her husband, which is Brandon Ong, for their family and friends. It was supposed to be a partying party as they would return to the state in the following day. The plan was to have a dinner at Montes, which is at Bangsa Shopping Complex. According to the plan, after their family returned home, the pair and their friends are supposed to hang out some more, which apparently become their last moment together.
It was when Canny dug down to fish out her parking ticket from the car seat was when Najib Aris forced her into the car and drove away so fast he knocked down a parking cone. Calls after calls bombarded Canny's phone as their friends and family panicked as they couldn't reach her. It was Canny's mother who then suggested security to look at the CCTV footage, and indeed it did show Najib Aris driving around frantically with a very much terrified Canny in the passenger seat. That's when they called the police. As the night of terror continued for Canny, it ended with her dead body burnt in a manhole, with evidence of rape just before the murder. It was indeed a tragedy, as there were instances where witnesses had recalled that they smelled something fishy during their encounter with Najib Aris and Canny Ong, but the situation ended like it did. Nevertheless, such instances included a police officer who patrolled the area Subang and found the appellant and also the victim in the car by the roadside, but the appellant managed to drive away, even leaving behind his identity card. Second was Aminah binti Ishaq, who noticed the weird behavior of the deceased, who put her hands together like this as of a signal for help, but all she managed to do was lodge a police report. Next was Azizam bin Ismail, a technician that noticed the deceased but didn't do anything except for stealing her phone.
The fourth witness, which is Muhammad Zulkifli Abdul Ghani, was the one who found the car that was driven by Najib Aris that night. And last but not least is the one who found the burnt body of the deceased, which is Mr. Sultan. The cause of the death is found to be because of strangulations, but also based on the post-mortem, it was shown that the deceased was likely to die as a result of bleeding in the abdomen caused by sharp objects. Evidence submitted by the public prosecutor to the court are the blood stains found on the classical blue jeans that was found on Najib Aris' house. The DNA test confirmed that it is the deceased's blood. For the rape allegations, the vaginal swab and DNA test showed that it is the appellant's semen found inside her.
During this trial, the prosecution, which was the respondent for this case, sought for an admissible of a confession made by the appellant himself. Fortunately, the trial judge admitted it as evidence because it was made voluntarily. Because of this new evidence, the prosecution were able to establish a prima facie case of rape and murder against the appellant. When the appellant, Najib Aris, was called upon the judge to present his defense, he chose to remain silent and produce no further evidence to prove his innocence. Therefore, he was soon convicted and sentenced as per his trial verdict.
Hi everyone, my name is Syed Ryan Razak bin Syed Azidi, and today I will be explaining my part, which is the relevant laws to the case of Ahmad Najib Aris versus public prosecutor. The judge in this case, Abdul Aziz Muhammad, had referred to 7 cases and followed 2 cases in his ruling. And what I meant by refer is, the judge had read the case in full and used it as a reference. And what I meant by followed is, he had used the case as an authority in his decision making. The 7 cases that were referred to are as follow: Chan Min Cheng versus public prosecutor in the year of 2002, Guru Baru Praja versus the King AIR in the year of 1949, Hanafi Mat Hassan versus Public Prosecutor in the year of 2006, Muhammad Ali Jaafar versus Public Prosecutor in the year of 1998, Public Prosecutor versus Law Say Sec and others in the year of 1970, and Rahulaya versus Emperor AIR in the year of 1917. And the two cases followed by the judge was this is a hard one to pronounce, so forgive me if I pronounce it wrongly, Nana Segaran Pararaja Singham versus Public Prosecutor in the year of 1997, and last but not least, Idris versus Public Prosecutor in the year of 1960. Now we will move on to the classification of law. In the case of Ahmad Najib Aris versus Public Prosecutor in the year of 2007, the first classification of law which is relevant to the case is national law. This is because, in this case of Ahmad Najib Aris versus Public Prosecutor, both the appellant and respondents were citizens of Malaysia, thus making this case fall under national law. The second relevant law to this case is the public law. Public law is a law that governs the relationship between the individual and the state. And since the case of Ahmad Najib Aris versus Public Prosecutor is a criminal case, the government will be a party to the case in the form of Public Prosecutor, and thus making this case fall under public law. The third law that is relevant to this case is criminal law. Criminal law is a body of law that deals with crimes and its punishments. And since the case of Ahmad Najib Aris versus Public Prosecutor involves the rape and murder of his victim, this case is then classified under criminal law. And the fourth relevant law to this case is the written law. Written law can be seen as a set of rules which is codified and enacted by the parliament. And since the case of Ahmad Najib Aris versus Public Prosecutor involves the penal code, which is a law enacted by the parliament, this case falls under written law. The fifth relevant law to this case is the substantive law. The substantive law is a law that governs the rights, the duties, and the liabilities among its citizens and the government. In the case of Ahmad Najib Aris versus Public Prosecutor, the legislation involved to govern this case was the penal code, thus making this case fall under substantive law. Last but not least, once a case falls under substantive law, it will then automatically fall under procedural law. This is simply because procedural law is a law that governs the procedures in enforcing the rights and duties of substantive law.
After evaluating all the evidence from the postmortem report, chemists, police, and witnesses, Ahmad Najib has been found guilty of rape and murder. He was sentenced to death. However, he has been sentenced in high court, hence he has appealed. The appeal process has been taken for quite a long time, which is 11 years. But in the end, the country's highest court, which is the federal court, had declared the death sentence on the suspect. Among the strong reasons of convicting the suspect with the crime was the presence of the diseased blood on the suspect's clothes and also the discovery of a condom containing the suspect's semen at the rape scene. On the 23rd of September 2016, Ahmad Najib Aris was sentenced to death at 6 a.m. in the morning. According to his lawyer, Hanif Khatri, he had repented in prison and regretted his act. The day before his death, Ahmad Najib had met his family members. This is the end of the heartbreaking story of Canny Ong's death. The story of the deceased remains one of the most remembered stories in Malaysia. No human being deserves such fate as a victim. As a result of this case, women's parking systems has been introduced in this country. That is all from me, Irdina Hani from Pro Bono TV.